Tonight, let's talk about the systems of government. A government is an ideology where people come together and form an organized system of managing resources, and they are normally led by politicians. There are three major ideologies of government in the world, that is capitalism, socialism, and communism. In capitalism, individual people in the state or country are allowed to own everything they work for, but they have to pay taxes to the government. The tax codes are designed to help in encouraging innovation and competition. Thus, nations that tend to lean more towards capitalism, like the United States, will lead in innovation and development of new technologies. Capitalism encourages competition, yeah, but also it increases the wealth gap between the rich and the poor. Capitalists exploit the laborers for their own gain. Like for instance, here in the United States, 50% of the entire wealth of the United States is held by 10% of the population. So in a socialist system, the government controls resources and provides the means of production. For example, in Kenya, the government is responsible for buying the agricultural goods through the various ministries and exporting on behalf of the citizens. It then redistributes the proceedings to the people through things like providing health care, education, and other social services. In this system of government, the country resources are controlled by the state. People are allowed to own private properties, but then those who do not own are provided for by the government. If you know the government will provide you, you will definitely not work as hard. Socialism leads to laziness, lack of innovation, and corruption, where people in the authority uses their office to acquire wealth. In a communist government, however, the state owns everything, including the means of production and housing. It is the responsibility of the working class to work and provide for the non-working class. Your paycheck is taken by the government and redistributed among the community. Therefore, you do not own anything in a communist government. With these three government ideologies, there is no country in the world that have pure capitalism or pure socialism or pure communism. But governments tend to favor one system, even though every country has a blend of the three. Kenya is more leaned towards socialism. The United States government ideology depends on the political party in power. For instance, the Democrats lean towards socialism, while the Republicans tend to lean towards capitalism. China tends to favor communism, and that is why they are building house complexes for the working class. Communist presidents are very powerful, then the socialist, and finally the capitalist. If you do not have a job, you would want to be in a communist government whereby the working class will feed you and house you, or probably for socialism, where the government will be providing you with the services like health care and even housing or food, but it's using other people's money. So as soon as you get a job, you would like to be in a capitalism form of government, since your money is yours and nobody else should benefit from it. That is why countries of the world tend to have a blend of these three systems. So let's now have a quick talk about the government debt. And we have seen how the government borrows money in the previous episodes. And the question is a government debt a good or a bad thing? The answer to this question is yes and no. If you owe a bank 5,000, that is your problem. You have to pay them. If you owe them 5 million, then it becomes the bank's problem. They will make you a cup of tea whenever you show up at their bank to discuss the terms of payment. Supposing someone shows up in the bank with a knife and threatens to stab you in front of the bank manager, will that manager defend you? There you have your answer. So you probably remember when Al-Shabaab terrorists invaded the Westgate Mall in Nairobi. Around that time, they were blowing up innocent civilians in buses within the city. So the question is, who was supplying them with weapons and explosives? So the weapons were coming in through, the weapons were coming into Kenya through the Dadaab and Kakuma refugee camps. So to put things in perspective, there is gold in northern Kenya. And after the Kenyan government collected and analyzed the intelligence, they closed the camps without consulting the UN. Like they didn't have to have any permission from the UN to close those camps. Could you imagine what would have happened if they did not have any loan with China? The Kenyan economy would have crumbled in an instant. So China was the bank manager that Kenya owed 5 million. Thus, they have to protect the Kenyan economy, else they will not get paid. So Chinese are not Holy Ghost that their Belt Road Initiative loans had some few predatory practices, and that is why the IMF tried to advise countries against those loans, but most of the countries were in for it. So now for the IMF to open up a line of credit to the struggling countries, it makes logic why they should demand the debt sustainability analysis, since, for instance, let's say, for example, Pakistan have a Chinese loan equivalent to 20% of its total GDP. You think that is bad? Kenyan debt, on the other hand, is over 50% of its gross GDP, where it's around $80 billion. So there are talks about debt forgiveness, but it's not always guaranteed, since the debt is owed to private financial institutions within China. So that is why the government is in distress to collect taxes. The public should push for transparency on how the funds are allocated. And as a disclosure, because I've received a few comments here and there, a few messages. So as a disclosure, I'm not an economist, I'm not a politician, I'm not a historian. I'm just a scientist with an analytical mindset. So to solve a problem, I do my own research. I understand and find the problems that affect people that I care about. I care about Kenya because it educated me enough to move me to the United States and start a career as a regulatory scientist at a US government laboratory. So the views in all my videos are my own, and I do not represent anyone or any organization. And this disclosure will hold true to all my past and future videos. So if I start explaining stuff that falls within your field of expertise, please feel free to chip in and make education, and let's all make this education a success. So I'll see you guys in the next one.